Coming up on episode 290 of Wheel Bearings, we've got the Kia Niro EV, the Toyota Sequoia, the Mercedes-Benz EQE AMG, the Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xe, the Kia EV9, a first drive of the Nissan Ariya E-4ORCE, taking a ride with Waymo in San Francisco, and the VW ID2 All concept. All that and more coming up next. This is episode 290 of Wheel Bearings. I'm Sam Abul-Samad from Guidehouse Insights.
I am Nicole Wakeland from Newsweek's Fast Women podcast.
And I am Roberto Baldwin from, let's say, The Verge. I don't know if the article's gone up, but I just wrote something for The Verge.
Okay.
That counts then.
That's enough.
I just
You've written stuff for The Verge before, so this stuff is live.
Yeah. So we believe you.
They have a bunch of it. They have like 4 or 5, 3? Yeah. I think they have 3 articles that I know are live, maybe 4.
Okay. All right. Nicole, what have you been driving?
I am driving the Jeep Grand Cherokee Summit Reserve 4xe. It's a big name.
It is.
It's hard to fit on social media posts. I'm like, that's too many words. It's like this.
You can leave out the trim levels. Just say Grand Cherokee 4xe.
4xe. So I'm driving that, which is not an inexpensive car. So the base price on this is $72,595. And with all the extras on there, it's $81,380. So it's pushing $82,000. So it's not cheap, but
well, I don't think we have any inexpensive cars this week.
Am I actually
bonkers?
Am I actually the like hoi polloi car? Am I the cheap one? I might be.
I have one cheaper car.
Okay. I know Robbie's got more expensive ones. He figures out how to read the Monroney.
Give me one.
You have to build it. It's so hard. So that's what I'm driving this week. I like this. I mean, I already like the Grand Cherokee. I think it's a good vehicle, and it does that neat Jeep thing. That is a Jeep thing where you have this beautiful SUV. I mean, this has all sorts of cool stuff on the inside. This Summit Reserve trim. It has leather seats, and they're quilted. It's actually, I think, Palermo leather, which is the coolest of leathers.
Is that better than Napa leather?
Which is better? Is Palermo better than Napa?
Actually, let me rephrase that. Is there even such a thing as Palermo leather? Or is it just a marketing term like Corinthian leather?
Okay.
Is it from Palermo?
Well,
do they make leather in Palermo?
Okay, wait. Well, you guys riff on that. What is Palermo? Palermo, what is a small workshop in... Oh, no, that's the Palermo Leather Workshop. I think it's real.
You must make it there.
Oh, okay. Is it actually in Palermo, Italy?
It's listed on very many things. I Googled Palermo leather and I got a million different things that are Palermo leather. I don't know. I feel like, wait a minute.
Very many things.
Here we go. Wait, what is Palermo leather? Is a thick leather of high quality with a fine grain. It is very fine grained and elegant. It is just provided. This is clearly not it's from an Australian site. Doesn't sound like English even. It is just provided with a slight and transparent finish so that the natural charisma is maintained, but is protected for everyday use as well. That
charisma.
Is AU? Isn't it .au? Is that Australia?
Yeah, that's Australia.
Okay, yeah. This is the coriumleather.com.au. That is the first search result. So there you go. It's a real thing. So anyway,
I'll take your word for it.
Maybe from Australia. We don't know.
Maybe from Australia.
If it's on the internet, it must be true, right?
Oh, no, this one says, now the next one, tanned in northern Italy on large-scale English bull hides. I think what we have established is we don't know exactly what it is, but that it is real.
It's probably an Australian distributor for Italian leather.
For an Italian leather.
So it's an Italian leather. Let's just say Italian leather.
Okay.
Okay, so the Jeep Grand Cherokee Summit Reserve 4xe has Italian leather inside. It's beautiful. It's very lovely. It has lots of quilting, like it's even on the door panels. It has that very sort of premium look, and this also gets real wood trims. It's along the dash. It's even some on the steering wheel. So you definitely have that sort of more premium feel to it. That's $82,000. You got to have it feel like it's something. You can't have it not look like an $82,000 car, and it does. And I love that the rear seats standard. You have the quad zone automatic climate control or whatever. So the rear seat passengers control it themselves, because you can never get everybody comfortable. I want everybody in a big SUV to have their own climate control, because when they're tiny cars, probably the front and the rear passengers aren't going to notice that much of a difference. But in a big car, the front seat passengers can be like roasting and the people in back are frozen. So I think it's nice that you have that. Sounds like a silly thing until you've been stuck in a car where people are fighting over that kind of stuff.
Especially if you have Palermo leather.
You don't want to be cold or too hot with your Palermo leather.
Who wants to sit on cold leather? You ever done that? You're like, oh,
nobody.
Yeah. Or hot leather is too hot as well.
Right?
Yeah, when you're wearing like shorts, you just.
It has to be the right temperature. Yeah. So you get you get a 10.1 inch infotainment touchscreen. It's got the usual like Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. You've got 4G LTE Wi-Fi connectivity. It has a really cool, and I think it might be an extra. I'm double checking right. Yeah, yes, it is a 19 speaker high performance audio system. It's the Macintosh Audio, which has such cool like the little it looks. Did
you turn on the gauges?
I did not turn on the gauges. I know I should have played around with the gauges. I didn't play with the little gauge because then I get distracted. I'm like, ooh, the little meters watching the sound bounce back and forth. So, I mean, this is a pretty well equipped vehicle even before you add on all the extra stuff. And the thing about it is it's, because it's a Jeep, it balances really well between having, it's a large 2-row SUV. It has, plenty of room for everybody. It has good features, and it's really, really off-road capable. Like you can genuinely take this off-road if you want to. It's not something that, you can do in every car. And a lot of the cars that are really off-road capable, there's a lot of brands out there that say they can do it, but they can't. And sometimes you have to get really, really pricey before you can do it. You go up to Land Rovers and stuff that have, that comparable like heavy duty off-road capability, as opposed to sort of like a halfway kind of off-road. Like we can take you across the field to your kids' state fair field trip, but we can't really take you beyond much past that.
Like if the kids are trapped like in the wilderness, that you're not going to take them. But if they're trapped at the fair,
then you're good. You can go pick them up at the fair. But if they're trapped in like a log cabin in the middle of nowhere, say goodbye to your children. Yeah. So see, this will save your kids. So buy
you can make more.
Right. You can make more. And because it's a plug-in hybrid, you do get better fuel economy than you would with just a straight gas engine. So this goes for 26 miles per charge on electric only, which is not as good as some, but it's not fabulous, but it's not, I'll take the 26 miles,
It's a biggie.
She's a big little car. She's big. So you're not going to get.
Well, also, compared to a gas only Grand Cherokee, even when you run out of that 26 miles of electric range, that hybrid's going to be a lot more efficient than either the V6 or V8 Grand Cherokee.
Right. So this gets what it's saying is the gas and electric combined is 56 mpge. Gas only, it's 23 miles per gallon. So you're getting good. You're getting exceptional.
That's 3 miles more than your Wrangler.
It probably is a little bit more than my Wrangler. My Wrangler's older. It's not as efficient. It weighs. I don't know which weighs more. Does a Wrangler Rubicon weighs? Once you put all the Rubicon, once you put all the Rubicon-ness on it, it's
once you rube it up.
Once you Rubiconize, is that a word? Rubiconize it.
Well, you also have to keep in mind that the aerodynamics of a Wrangler are slightly less optimized than a Grand Cherokee.
Yeah, it's just driving on the road with a box on top of a smaller box with a smaller box on top.
A box on top of a box, and and then you remove pieces of it, and then your box has open air and is even more airflow issues over it, and so it is a very inefficient but fun box to drive. Yes, this is slightly more efficient and more aerodynamically designed. So I like the Grand Cherokee. I think it's a good choice if you want that sort of rugged ability. We had it. We got 14 inches of snow. We had a nor'easter that hit, and especially people think of it just as an off-road vehicle, but Jeeps are hugely popular in New England. That's a large part of the reason why when you get 14 inches of snow and you have to get into or out of your driveway, and it's not so much the snow that's on the road, although that's great to have that kind of capability and the extra ground clearance, but it's that snowbank that's at the end of your driveway, or the snowbank where the plow has like gone by and you have to cross out into the main road, and you're like, there is now 3.5 feet of snow in front of me. How do I get through this? Because they will go by inevitably. You're at a stoplight, like coming out of the grocery store, plow comes by. You're like, well, now what the heck am I supposed to do? Right. that's it. It will get you through that. You will get through that kind of thing. So it's a great vehicle, whether it is the off-road part that you really want for off-roadiness, or if it's just that you want something that's capable enough to handle really, truly deep snow so that you don't get stuck or think like, I can't go out today because that plow could come by any minute. So I'm a fan. It is pricey. Like I said, it's $81,000 equipped like this. But if you get, the base on this is $73,000. So you can get it's still a premium price, but when it's not outrageous given what it can do, because you're getting that capability that you don't get with every SUV this size.
So according to the car comparison thing on KBB.com, the curb weight of a Grand Cherokee 4xe Summit Reserve SUV is 5,507 pounds.
Okay.
The Jeep Wrangler Unlimited 4xe Rubicon Sport Utility 4-door SUV is 5,222 pounds. So almost 300 pounds less than the Grand Cherokee.
Okay. So 300 pounds. So not a huge amount less.
Yeah. Not much less.
Jeez,
and also
that's way smaller and a box.
Yeah.
A little bit less, and it's a box.
And it has all kinds of appendages sticking out, that stick into the air.
Random bits and pieces and great big wonky fenders and
so
all sorts of stuff that like every engineer is like, no, the aerodynamics, don't kill it. Too bad it's a Wrangler.
Yeah. Excellent. All right, Robbie, what do you got?
So I drove most of the week. The whole 2023 AMG EQE sedan. So this is their electric performance EQE. I actually I like it better than the EQS.
Really?
It's
Why?
smaller. It just feels it feels lighter. It feels a bit more nimble. It still has all-wheel drive or all-wheel steering. Well, it has all-wheel drive obviously, but it also has all-wheel steering. So it's already a bit smaller, and then it just feels smaller when you go around corners. I tend to like smaller vehicles overall, to be honest, because I just like the little nimbleness of a vehicle versus sort of this big hulking thing. You get most of the EQS that stuff that you're going to get anyway, like all the stuff that you're going to use like all the time. It's already on the EQE. So I like this car. It's quick. It has some insane amount, 701 pound-feet of torque, and then it has a boost function where you have 738 pound-feet of torque. So it's just like woo! It's it's fun to drive.
Wait, how's that go again? What's it like?
Woo!
Okay, just double checking.
I do wish that Mercedes had gone to an 800 volt system. This thing's only going to charge at 170 kilowatts, but that's
well, the reality is that's probably all you're ever going to get out of most Electrify America stations anyway.
Yeah, it's sad because it's true. But you know what? You're fine. You can just. So I drove this, and before I could do any actual testing, I had been driving it back and forth to Napa. It has the one I had has these fancy, expensive 21-inch AMG Y-spoke wheels. They're in black. So your sidewall is like, I don't know. It's just like they just stuck a belt.
About
like
a quarter of an inch high.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is great, 90% of the time in the Bay Area. The Bay Area has been getting a lot of rain, and that rain means that the little pothole becomes a big pothole. And I was driving this vehicle to go and drive around in the Hummer EV SUV, and on the way it was dark because I had to get up really early to get there in time, and there was a pothole that I didn't see because it was shrouded by rain and darkness.
Oh no!
And I I didn't break the wheel. The wheel was fine, but the tires shot. So I had about a 4-inch slice in the sidewall.
I'm familiar with that problem.
Yeah, so I'm just like, I'm driving, and all of a sudden the car's all bing, and it pops up the tire, how much pressure you have in each tire, and each tire is like, oh, 38, 0.
Oh, geez. That's
and
not
so
good.
I tried using the Mercedes-Benz little pump because I couldn't see the hole. I thought maybe I just debeaded it a little bit and it just kind of popped out. Maybe I can air it up because I'm in a hurry. That didn't work. And then they have like a little fix-a-flat that they give you that you attach to the pump, their little pump that they give you, and that didn't work. and I still couldn't because it was dark and it was raining. I still couldn't see the hole, so I'm like, all right, I'm going to drive across the street to the Chevron station, park there, and then use their industrial strength tire inflator. And that didn't. I put it in. And I look over and I'm like, oh, and they're just shooting back out of my face, and it's shooting out that white Fix-A-Flat goo,
Yes.
it's like shooting that out. I'm like, well, that's a problem. So that's how I ended my week with the EQE. I had to wait like 3 or 4 hours for them to be able to pick me up because it was too early. I tried to call. There's no one to call because it's really early.
No.
The fleet company's not around. I'm not gonna call the guy and wake him up and be like, "Hey, I'm stuck here." Let him sleep. He's got enough to deal with. So I was just like, "All right." And I had to call GMC, and they were like, "It's fine. Just get here when you get here." No, it all worked out. But if you have to be trapped in a car in a rainstorm, a Mercedes is awesome.
It's not a bad car to be trapped in for a while.
I just put the seat back, and the Chevron station was a combination McDonald's. And I typically don't eat at McDonald's, but I'm like, hey, I'm here. I'll have a McDonald's. But I was waiting for it to stop raining. And my phone tells me when it's going to rain and when it's going to stop raining. And it kept saying it's going to stop raining. And then it just wouldn't.
Good luck with that. Rain forever.
Rain forever. So I wasn't able to do a range. That was on it was on Tuesday.
Tuesday was the really bad day, wasn't it?
Yeah, because I was driving from Healdsburg back to San Francisco on Tuesday.
Oh, that's right. They canceled part of your drive, right?
Well, that was the day we drove the day before. We drove the Ariya the day before. So we didn't have that problem. But yeah, I was that same morning I was driving back to San Francisco for some meetings, and it was coming down hard.
It was not messing around.
I know for Ariya, they had like two legs to your drive day, and they canceled the second part because they said it was really bad. Like, nope, there's too much flooding. And I kind of, you always kind of think it's, an abundance of caution. It's not so bad. Well, I happened to be the one who drove the day after this. And when I drove it, it was open and we could drive it, but there were just these flooded signs everywhere. And you could see still mud that they had just literally well, we'll take a truck and push the mud out of the way, but we'll clean this up later. It was crazy. The road was just a disaster. It was really bad.
Later that day out in the Hummer, I went to a road because they just gave me the Hummer because I was off. I was off book by that point.
A little behind schedule.
I took it to a road that I had already driven in with the Ariya and the EQE, and it was just, there's nothing. It was just dry road. Yeah. The day before, by the next morning, it was completely flooded. So I had to drive, and unfortunately, I was driving the Hummer, the SUV, and I was just
right through. Yeah.
I don't think that violates
it's heavy enough that hydroplaning is not really an issue, I take it.
I think you could only worry if there was enough water that it was deep and heavy enough, just to pick it up off the road, and then you have problems.
Yeah. It was. We got a lot of rain. So the AMG EQE sedan, I'm hoping I'll get it back at some point in the future. I have a very busy schedule, so I can finish.
I take it they just flatbedded it back to.
Yeah, they just flatbedded it, and so now I have a bunch of other vehicles that are lined up, and so I have to shuffle things around and whatnot. But for a few days, just driving around up and down to Napa and just around town, it was great. I really liked it. Starting price is $106,900 with all the little extra bits. $118,550. So yeah, you're really paying for that fancy AMG-ness. Did y'all want to guess the destination delivery charge? This is a Mercedes.
Let me remind you, this is a Mercedes before you answer.
$995.
I was going to go with $1,295, so I'll still go with $1,295.
Oh, Sam gives $1,150. So
okay,
less than you expect because other people charge more.
Since I forgot to do it,
well, they make up for it on the MSRP.
Yeah. What do you think it was for the Jeep, you guys?
Oh gosh, $1,600.
Sam?
$1,695, I think.
Sam wins at $1,795 for the Jeep.
Oh, okay. I couldn't remember if it was 16 or 17.
Sam's on a roll, man.
I knew it was up there. Stellantis is they're the worst on
they're crazy.
Our charge only $20,000, but our delivery fees are $80,000.
Yeah, $80,000 delivery fee, gentlemen.
Yeah. I can't give you the range either. They don't have the range hasn't been tested yet on this vehicle, so sorry.
Sorry. Wah,
Adequate.
wah.
All right. I had, before I went to California to drive the Ariya with Robbie, I had the Toyota Sequoia. And the Sequoia is quite large. It's a big honking SUV.
I mean, it's named after a giant tree.
That's true.
I want that in the
That's
ad.
true.
I want it to be like the Toyota Sequoia, big honking vehicle. like I would buy that.
And it has a very, very large grill, which we've talked about before in the context of the Tundra. It's based on the Tundra platform. Oddly, this time, the first generation Sequoia, when they built that, they put an independent rear suspension on it. While the Tundra still had solid rear axle, this time I think they probably figured, well, we don't sell that many Sequoias compared to the number of Tahoes and Suburbans and Escalades and Sierra and Yukons and everything that GM sells, or even the number that Ford sells of Expeditions and Navigators. So let's invest a little bit less. So they went back to a solid rear axle on this, but it does have the same coil spring setup, the multi-link coil spring setup that's on the Tundra. So it's not too bad. And they seem to have done a pretty good job on shaping the floor pan, because one of the reasons why they've manufacturers have gone to the IRS on the for the rear end of these big SUVs is when you have a solid axle, you've got to leave room for the axle to actually move up and down, because the differential doesn't stay in one place. It moves up and down with the axle. And so, that means the floor where the axle has to be up higher, which in the past has typically meant that, on older generations of Tahoes and Yukons and Suburbans and Expeditions, if you got stuck in the third row seat, the third row was basically mounted on the floor, and you had that very knees up seating position. And that was not real pleasant. In this case, they've got the axle far enough back that they were able to shape the floor such that, you have a more normal seating position in this. So it's actually not really any worse than the previous generation Sequoia. In terms of
worse.
Not any worse.
Well, which is to say, it's actually, it's pretty decent.
Slightly better.
Yeah. No, it's about the same. Oh. It feels about the same, which is pretty good. There's nothing wrong with sitting in the third row. The downside, though, is the floor, behind the seat, behind the third row seats, is actually a pretty small area, surprisingly small area for an SUV this size. Right now I've got a Rivian R1T or R1S, in the driveway, and it's got much more cargo space behind the third row than the Sequoia does. The Sequoia's cargo space, for example, on some of the competitors, you can put standard carry-on bags on their side, and stack like 4 or 5 of them across, on their side. This one is too shallow to put a carry-on bag on its side. So you have to turn it sideways and put it up against the back of the seat. So there's not a lot of cargo space behind that third row seat in the Sequoia. The rest, this one had the iForce Max powertrain, which is their hybrid powertrain, which has plenty of power. There's no shortage of power in this thing. 437 horsepower, 583 foot-pounds of torque. And it's a similar configuration to Ford's Power Boost system. So it's a twin turbo V6, 3.5 liters, and an electric motor sandwiched between the engine and transmission. And roughly similar. I think the Power Boost setup has slightly more power, slightly less torque, but it's in the ballpark. It's close enough to be a wash. But the Toyota on the Sequoia, and previously when I drove the same thing on the Tundra, I was not particularly impressed with the fuel economy of this thing. It's EPA rated at 19 city, 22 highway, 20 combined. I never really got much over 17.
Ouch.
So it's not particularly good fuel economy. It's got plenty of towing capacity though. I think depending on the configuration, you can get up to almost 10,000 pounds of towing capacity. So it's in the it's comparable to the others. The interior, the front row is basically the same as a Tundra. So you got that nice big 14-inch touchscreen. You still have some physical controls for some of the climate stuff. I'm still not sold on Toyota's decision with their new infotainment not to have any kind of split screen configuration where you can have map and media player up on the screen at the same time. But thankfully it does have support for wireless Android Auto and wireless CarPlay, both of which allow you to do exactly that. So you can basically ignore the Toyota interface if you so desire. Let's see, decent audio system, 12.3-inch digital cluster. The one I had was the Capstone, which is Toyota's new top trim level for the big pickups and SUVs. And they are it's got 3-zone climate control and all kinds of other stuff. Smart key with push button start. Basically, it's loaded with everything on this one. And pretty much everything you could want is in there. I can't imagine too many other things that you might want on this thing, except maybe massaging seats. I don't think there's no massaging seats.
On the second row, or just in general?
Just even on the first row.
Really?
You sound so shocked. Really? What kind of madness is this?
I mean, you're sort of like, it's a third row and you're giving them this is the best of the best, and everyone for best of the best, like, here's some massaging seats.
No massaging.
They are heated and ventilated.
Do you guys use the massaging seats in a vehicle? Like, I use the heated seats all the time. How often do you actually
I do if I'm driving for more than an hour or so. I'll turn on the massaging seats.
I always turn them on, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I'm tired of being poked in the back and the butt and the neck.
I'm always yelling at the car to do it. It's just, come on, kids, keep going, because it turns off, because it doesn't. They don't.
Oh, the heated steering wheel does that. It turns off, and I'm like, no, my hands are not hot enough. Turn back on, dang it.
And they turn them off, I think, just so you don't wear out the machine.
Probably
the little engines that are like.
Is it like when you're only supposed to be in a hot tub for so many minutes before you get out? Is this
kind of, yeah.
You can only get the massage in a car for so long before they're like, no, you need to take a break and pay attention to the road and not be this comfortable.
Stop being so relaxed.
Stop being relaxed. Get tense. Drive.
So that's the Toyota Sequoia 4-wheel drive Capstone hybrid. Total price tag, $80,906.
So that's so comparable with the Cherokee.
Yeah.
Or the what would you drive? You had to. Yeah,
I had the
Grand Cherokee 4xe.
Grand Cherokee Summit Reserve 4xe. Let's get it right.
Does it have massage seats? Because I feel like it does.
Wait a minute, does it? I gotta look now. I can't remember. Wait, I'm searching the Monroney
massage.
Passengers.
The Summit Reserve's also probably got the passenger side display, which you don't get.
It does. It does have the passenger side display. I didn't play with the massaging seats because I'm not a huge. Oh wait, power. That's standard too on this trim. Power front passenger seat with back massager.
There you go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So guesses on the delivery charge for this $81,000 Sequoia?
14.
Oh, I was gonna say $14.95. I'm sticking with it.
You win, Nicole. It's $15.95.
Man, I'm on a roll of losing today. I have been on the road since 6 a.m. though. That's my excuse. I'm just dumb.
I'm taking this win. I beat you.
I got road dumb.
All right. Hey, Wheel Bearings listeners, it's Sam. And as I'm recording this, we're getting ready to head out tomorrow for a vacation trip in Hawaii. And one of the great things about going to Hawaii is all the fresh fish and the Asian-inspired food. We just love it there. We love eating the food there. And when we get back, we still love to eat that same kind of food, food of the Pacific Islands. And this May, HelloFresh is helping by celebrating Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. So for a limited time only, you can get some of that same kind of food with limited time authentic recipes created in partnership with Chef Surbi Sani of New York's Tagmo restaurant, who's creating a special cultural taste tour right in your own kitchen. After May is over, as we get into the summer months, you're probably going to be having friends over for parties and everything. So if you're hosting a get-together, check out HelloFresh Market for crowd-pleasing appetizers, snacks, sides, and more for your next gathering. It'll save you a lot of time and a lot of hassle putting everything together as you get your friends together in the backyard. The best part, you can skip that extra trip to the grocery store. All you have to do is go to hellofresh.com/wheelbearings16, that's wheelbearings16, and use the coupon code wheelbearings16 for 16 free meals plus free shipping. Remember, go to hellofresh.com/wheelbearings16 and use the coupon code wheelbearings16, that's wheelbearings16, for 16 free meals with free shipping. HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. So if you haven't tried it yet, now's the perfect opportunity to get 16 free meals. Did you know you can support Wheel Bearings directly? Head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia and you can become a patron today. Your contributions will help fund the platforms and tools we use to bring the podcast to you. And exclusives and improvements are already on the way thanks to your generosity. So if you want to be part of an automotive podcast like no other, head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia. So I also had another car that I was driving while I was in California that, instead of relying on Nissan to pick me up at the airport and drive me up to Healdsburg and then back again.
Could just called me. I just drove you around.
Well,
you
had some stuff to do. You had some stuff to do on Tuesday though, and I had some meetings to attend to on Tuesday. And so I got a Kia Niro EV. Let's see, it's the Niro Wind, the Wave, the Niro EV Wave. Which is, so this is the new Niro. A few weeks back, I had the plug-in hybrid. This is the battery electric version. It's not, it doesn't have the full eGMP hardware platform in there, which means, it's basically the same configuration that's in Robbie's Kona EV and in the previous generation Niro EV, which is fine. It's a 150 kilowatt, 201 horsepower electric motor driving the front wheels, 65 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery pack. The charge port is in the grill, which a lot of people seem to like, and makes it easy in most cases, to just pull up to a charger and plug in. You can, instead of backing in or trying to find the right, and just pull right up to the charger. And assuming you can find a charger that will actually work, then that
small caveat.
Yes, which we'll get to in a minute. It only charges at 100 kilowatts maximum, so it's faster than the previous one, which was limited to 75 kilowatts. Mm-hmm. But not as fast as some of the latest and greatest. Certainly not as fast as the eGMP stuff like the EV6 and the Ioniq 5. But it's adequate, and it's a relatively small battery, so it doesn't really take that long to charge. I liked the previous Niro. I like this one. I like the size of it. It's slightly bigger, slightly longer than the Kona, the first generation Kona, which means the back seat is a little more usable. The back seat in the first gen Kona is pretty tight. This one, is definitely much more usable. The Wave comes with a bunch of features like a power sunroof. It does have vehicle to load onboard power generator, like the eGMP stuff. It has a heads up display, the memory driver's seat, and vented, cooled front seats, which didn't really need last week in California, since it was kind of cool to begin with. Yeah. But it also had the latest highway driving assist 2, which is their Hyundai and Kia's hands-on lane centering system. And interestingly, driving it back from Healdsburg back to San Francisco through some fairly heavy rain, there were a couple times when the system actually, even though my hands were on the wheel, system deactivated. One time, there was one time when I hit a puddle, and I think at least on the left front wheel, I think it hydroplaned briefly. which caused it to kick out of the highway driving assist and actually disable it temporarily. And also when the wipers were going, really fast, it also turned off the system. But otherwise, this thing is generally pretty pleasant to drive. One thing I noticed with this one, though, is, when using the adaptive cruise control or the highway drive assist, it seemed to, it was not as smooth in braking and doing a speed control as I've remembered in the past with the system. It was a little more jerky, so it seems like it would wait a little bit longer and then kind of get on the brakes harder. So it was not feeling as seamless as I recall in the past. And in fact, in some cases, I had to just turn the system off because I was, getting closer and closer to the vehicle in front, even with the gap set long, and it did not seem to be slowing down. And so, I'm not sure if it was the radar or the camera that was getting obscured by the by the rain, but it was definitely not being as responsive as it normally would be. So it wasn't what I expected in that respect. The one I drove also had the Wave Reserve package, which has heat pump, heating and cooling system, which is more efficient than a traditional resistive heater. And it also has heated rear outboard seats. You get that for $1,300 as an option. Overall, I generally like the Niro. Like I said, I like the size of it. It drives pretty well. It's comfortable. But this one was pretty pricey. All in, $47,790.
Wow.
And
why would you buy that?
I know.
Would you buy that over the EV6 at that point when you're
exactly? Yeah. At that point, you might as well go with the EV6. It's 253 mile range. The base EV6 that they dropped the standard range EV6 this year, and the base EV6 is like, I think and rear wheel drive is a little over, is like 320 mile range, and it's about the same price. And if you went for the lower trim level of the Niro EV, you can get that for about 41. But the problem is now, with the IRA, these are assembled in South Korea. They're not built in North America, so they're no longer eligible for tax credits, which means that almost $48,000 price is what you're going to pay. And I think that is too much for this car. Much as I like this car a lot about this car, it's too much. Even $40,000 is pushing it for this car. I think, it should be priced, closer to low 30s at best. The one I had was white with the gray C-pillar trim, which some people don't like that look, the contrasting blade there on the C-pillars. I'm fine with it. But guesses on the destination charge?
$995.
$1,200.
Robbie finally gets one. $1,295.
Finally, I'm a winner. Yeah, the Kona is starts at 33,000 and they dropped the price a year and a half ago on the Kona. And then you're like, okay, well, this is just a really, because I own the Kona and the Niro is nicer.
Yeah,
but is it like $8,000 nicer
or
$7,000 nicer?
More like $15,000 nicer.
Yeah, well, I mean that's the starting price. That's the starting price. So, but yeah,
yeah. I mean, at this price point, I would have a really hard time recommending this one.
You gotta get it on the lease where you can still get the $7,500. That's the trick.
Yep.
You get the lease and then somehow I don't know.
So, driving this thing around, I drove it, into San Francisco and then drove over to the East Bay for a couple of meetings. In San Francisco, I managed to get it to chart. I was at a Whole Foods on Market Street where they have a couple of EVgo chargers in the garage, which is underneath the store. And after trying to use my corporate credit card to charge, and it wouldn't accept that. And it turns out there was some nonsense with EVgo not being an approved merchant for the corporate card, so it was getting declined.
My God.
So I finally got it to work after a couple.
Wait a minute,
attempts.
it wouldn't. You're so this was a case of your company's security to make sure you weren't just like, getting hookers and blow or something, would not let you use the EV charger for your car.
I don't know. EV Go sounds like hookers and blow. If you really think about the name.
That could be sketchy. That's
EV. I thought it was Easy Go. Okay, never mind.
Whole different thing.
I
after I got home, I called up the department that handles the corporate credit card program and got them to fix that. So hopefully that'll work in the future.
Oh my gosh.
And even when I tried using my own card, it still wouldn't work properly at first. I had to try it a couple times before it would finally go through. Then when I was over on the East Bay, I tried using after driving for a while, I tried using another EV Go charger. That one didn't work at all. I tried a charge point charger near the Facebook headquarters in the Facebook headquarters parking lot. That one didn't work at all.
Did they all just not work? Did they give you weird messages, or was like nothing?
I plug it in, nothing happens. And then when I got back, before I went to the airport, before I dropped off the car, I found another EV Go in San Bruno. Yeah, San Bruno, and that one worked. Actually, the first two chargers I plugged it into did not work at all. One, the connector was so hosed it wouldn't even go in and click, and then the other one, it wouldn't communicate. I don't know what was going on, but just nothing worked. Finally, the third charger I tried at that location would actually charge it, so it was quite annoying.
What's going on with EV Go? They are redoing a charging station near my house. And they had 3 chargers there, and you go there and you charge, and it was fine. And they're like, oh, we're putting in new ones. And they seemed like they got to a point, and then just nothing. I drive by it all the time, and I look, and I'm like, they haven't done anything in like 2 months.
Are the chargers there, or just
They're there? They're just there. They're just like they got to a point where they were working on it, and then the chargers were there, and then they just stopped. And I mean, I guess you could say the rain, but I don't feel like
it's more likely some sort of permitting issue or some issue with the utility trying to get it hooked up and provisioned and everything.
Maybe.
Especially if it's a higher power charger than what they had before.
Yeah, I think they're putting in a higher power charger. So.
Yeah.
Hey, it's next to a shopping place that I go to, so I always like those because I'm like, ooh, just boom, throw a couple dollars in there.
Top it off a little bit.
Top it off. Get a little something in there.
A little something.
All right. Let's move on, but let's stick with a Kia EV for now. The New York Auto Show is coming up in a couple of weeks, and probably one of the highlights of the show is going to be the launch of the Kia EV9, which, Nicole, you have seen in person.
I did. When they flew me out to Korea earlier this year, it was to get a first look at the actual non-concept versions, basically, of the EV9. They had a couple of them there for us to look at. They had the designers there to talk to us about all of the different design decisions that were made about it. And yeah, it was great to get a first look at it. So I got hands-on time with the new EV9.
Did they drive you around in it, or just like show
Nope,
it to you?
there was no driving around it. We were allowed to get in it, but we weren't allowed to drive around in it. They were just static in the warehouse that they had taken us to. So no driving around in it, unfortunately.
Did you get to sit in the second row seats facing backwards?
I didn't play with the second row seats backwards. I sat in the third row. I sat up front and got to play around with the infotainment and to see the 3 screens that they have, because there's like a large instrument cluster. Then there's a large like traditional infotainment screen, and there's a little tiny screen like wedged in the middle that just controls, I believe it just controls the HVAC. So you've got like this very long expanse of screens across the dashboard, but they are very, like, the clarity is really good and the responsiveness is really good. That can say, you touch them and you get exactly what you want the first try around. So I liked how the screens looked. I like the layout. It has that same, it has in the vein of the EV6, it has that very open, very airy feeling. It just, there's a lot of space. And I did like that it's a very clean interior. Like it's supposed to sort of highlight where they're going with design, not where they've been with design. So as much as EV6 is a little bit different than a lot of what the other vehicles that you see from Kia, EV9 then goes one step further in terms of their design language, both inside and out. What I really liked, and you kind of have to look like at a straight on, like look right at the grill of this car, smack at the grill. And you notice it is, despite this being huge, it's big. They really sculpted it very straight along the sides. There's none of these like big fender flares and big haunches. They kind of gave it a sort of straight look from the front, so it makes it feel a little less gigantic. But then when you look at it in profile, you see all this sort of, there is some sort of geometric sort of sculpturing to the sheet metal. So it gives it a little bit of character. And I also really like, they have these really funky lights, the front LED lights. It's sort of like a blade light that kind of goes along the front. And they say it's supposed to look like a constellation. So if you were looking up at Cassiopeia or whatever, and you connected the dots, that's supposed to be the idea of what it kind of mimics in that design. So I wanted them to have a name. I'm like, did you name it? They're like, no, it's the Star Map Constellation. I'm like, a name, gentlemen, give it a name. Nope, there was no name. Yeah. So they had no name for it, which is disappointing, but it looks really, really cool in the front. And they even sort of slightly different, but the same idea in the back. And they say that's like one of those design cues that you're going to see that flowing through to the rest of the Kia lineup going forward. I keep thinking of things like, you have the Thor's hammer headlights on the Volvo that I just love how those look. And it's very distinctive. I think they're sort of going for their own, the completely different look, but the same idea. It's going to be a distinctive lighting signature that when you see this, you're going to know that's a Kia. You're going to know without having to look at the badge or know exactly which car that you're looking at. So it was really, for us, it was really a study in the design of what they've done with this. I mean, they couldn't even tell us what the range on the battery was. So they were still very tight-lipped on a lot of details. They wouldn't confirm the screen size. There's a lot that they wouldn't say. So it was more a look at what they're doing. And it was interesting to see where they think the brand is going. It does give it this very clean, very futuristic look without being like out there. You know how sometimes it's almost like they feel like, to make this feel like a vehicle of the future, we're going to make it a little weird. No, it's not a little weird. It doesn't have to be weird just to be of the future. So it really looked good. The quality was good. The seating was super comfy. So I like it, and I cannot wait to drive this. I'm really curious to see how it drives and how it handles. They're really betting heavy on this one. Like, it's not just, yeah, okay, fine, we'll do an electrical, we'll make it a through. Like, no, we're really going to make this something. So they're truly making this huge effort to make this a big deal, I guess.
Their electric Telluride.
It's like their electric Telluride. Yeah, like the Telluride was a big deal for the gas. This is a big deal for Kia. And I don't feel like corners were cut. Like, they kind of went all in with design. I feel like once we get all the numbers, I feel like the numbers are going to live up to that too. I can't imagine they would have spent all of this time with all these creative and interesting and unique design elements, and then like, let's phone it in when it comes to battery. It's, like, yeah, whatever.
12 miles.
12 miles.
Wait,
suck it up, people. That's all you get.
Well, I think they've. I was looking at a couple of other reports, indicating that they're expecting it to have, at least with the extended range battery, at least 300 miles of range.
That's what we're expecting, but there's no,
US.
like, if you look, it's like, we think it'll have that. Well, what will it have? Could have 12. Rob, you might be right. I think the 300 is probably a better bet, but it could be 12. So Robbie, finally, you're right.
Finally, you're right at something.
If this comes back at 12, we're going to hear Robbie screaming like, yes, from all the way
I'm not going to be, yes. That means I have to drive a car with 12 miles.
I know, right?
Driving around the block, I'm like, well, that's the review.
So it is really, I mean, I really liked it. And I think it's unique. I think people are going to really like this. And if the pricing Kia tends to do that. We give you a lot of content for a very good price. If they can nail that as well, what I think is neat about this is going to give families who want to go with an electric, but we're like, I cannot afford to get into I can't afford to go into something big. I can't afford something like, there's not options out there that are family 3-row EVs. This could be that. It could be like the car.
Yeah, I mean, right now,
asking me for that.
Yeah, I mean, right now, if you need a 3-row SUV, if you've got, 3 kids or more, and you need that third row, and you want to go electric, basically the only options you have are really at the high end of the market,
right.
like the Model X, or the Rivian R1S, or the Mercedes EQS SUV.
Right.
And those are really out of reach for a lot of consumers.
Yeah.
So if Kia can get this thing out there, if they can deliver a 300-mile range, for somewhere in the say $60,000 price range, I mean that's still far from cheap. But
that's a big deal.
It gets you a lot closer, and a lot more people are going to be able to afford this.
Yeah. I think that's part of their moving the brand forward thing. It's like, we're going to continue to make affordable vehicles that are a great value for the features and what they have, but we're going to make it so that real people can afford it, that you don't have to be a higher income, that you don't have to stretch your budget to the point that, okay, everything I'm saving by, the benefits of having an EV financially now, I just kicked them all out the window because I had to spend an extra 20 grand to get this thing in the first place. I think this could be it really could be a game changer for Kia if they're able to do this. And then I hope, and they have said nothing about this, so this isn't like something they've said, but with production being still weird for everybody, nobody is quite delivering everything when production isn't quite what it's supposed to be. I'm really hopeful that the timing has all come together, because it would be like nothing worse than doing all this and it's like, oh wait,
we can't build them.
I'm hoping they can build enough to satisfy. Yeah, like come on, Kia, make this happen. So I really liked it, and I think that for so many reasons this could be a really, really big vehicle for them.
It looks really cool. It looks like it's in motion when it's just sitting there, because it has those nice little. It's like it's futuristic, but like tasteful and not like over the top. And
did you check out the wheels? I note the crazy
I do like
wheels.
The little wheels. I do.
They have two. There were two different. I think they show them both in the pictures. There were two different versions of the wheels that they showed us, and we also so are those like some weird little? You're showing us these wheels, but no, again, like, oh no, we're gonna have those wheels, and they're really funky. I like them, and they're very low profile still. Not all the bumps and the fancy 25 different spindles and stuff to make them. They're still nice and efficient in terms of their design. They're not a Wrangler of wheels. They're
a Wrangler of
Wrangler wheels. They're nice and aerodynamic. So, but they look great. They look really cool, and they add some neat. It adds some neat personality.
And this whole swiveling second row seat thing, I think, is going to be really interesting for families. Being able to spin those second row seats around and face the third row, will be an interesting option, for kids, playing games or whatever, or just, doing things on a road trip, keep them occupied.
Right. Yeah, I know that really changes it. And that's different. Like I said, they did some really different, unique things with this. And I like that. I think the idea of that is cool. I'm curious how it would work out. Like, you've got 3 kids in the car and you can spin them around. Are people going to fight for that second row even harder now? Kids, right? I want the spinny seat. I want to be able to spin around.
Absolutely, they will.
That's going to make it is that going to make it better than shotgun? I guess when you're old enough to ride shotgun, you're like, no, I still want the second row because I want the spinny seat.
at least when you have that seat turned around, you won't have to worry about the kid behind you kicking you in the back.
That's true. They can just kick each other.
Yeah,
they can just kick each other. You can have 4 kids back there.
Maybe that's not so good though.
Oh my gosh, you would.
They're going to be screaming.
Oh, you're going to be kicking your brother or sister. Like, you're going to. Oh my gosh, and think about that.
Oh yeah. Okay.
It's going to be bruised. Okay, let's move on.
All right. So, staying electric. Actually, we're pretty much all electric today.
Oh, sorry.
The reason that we were all in you're always in California, Robbie, or most of the time. But the reason that we went to California this week was to drive the Nissan Ariya E-4ORCE.
Mm-hmm.
And we each had our opportunities to drive it.
It's like it's not E-4. It's like E and the number 4 and then ORCE. It's E-4ORCE. Yeah.
Is it actually?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even notice that.
It's the E. There's no F. It's
the
E4 ORCE. E4ORCE.
Oh,
E4ORCE.
Okay.
He's like, that can't be. They're wrong. No, we're right. We're right, Sam.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Okay.
E4ORCE.
So the Ariya went on sale in the U.S. in December. I think they've delivered a couple of thousand of them so far, but those were all single motor front wheel drive variants. Yes. This is the dual motor all wheel drive variant. which comes with two different battery sizes, a 63 kilowatt hour and an 87. We only drove the latter. And if you get the smaller battery, you get 335 horsepower and 413 foot-pounds of torque. If you get the big one, you get 389 and 442 foot-pounds of torque. What did you think?
I liked it. I think that, and what I liked is they took us to a track to show us how their torque vectoring works. I mean, everyone has torque vector. Like, hey, torque vectoring. Like, yeah, we got it. But the test that they have us doing, where you start with the wheel at an angle, and then you go through a turn while slamming down on the accelerator, and the vehicle not pushing, not giving you understeer. I'm like, oh, this is good. I think they've done a good thing with this, because I don't care about, for these vehicles, 0 to 60 numbers. I mean, we talk about them, but
they don't matter.
They don't matter. What really matters is when you're driving around.
It's just under 5 seconds.
Yeah, which is fine. But what really matters is that this vehicle, when you're driving around town and it's raining, because they were wetting the track until we got there, and they're like, yeah, we don't have to do that. If it keeps you on the road better than, say, another vehicle, that's a big deal. Especially, you got your family, you got your kid, maybe you got your friend, maybe you got your dogs, things that you love in the car with you. And if the car can keep you from sort of like, that terror of understeer, because oversteer, you're like, oh, I'm sliding. Oh, okay, I kind of had, but understeer, like, you're like, oh God, I'm turning the wheel, but I'm just going. Now you're just a passenger.
Yeah, it's somehow more panic inducing. You're like, oh,
it is, because you're like, oh no, because to get out of understeer, you have to actually stop steering. You have to straighten out a little bit so it catches and then finish your turn.
And it's all
back off the accelerator, and
you have to everything
get some weight transfer onto the front axle.
It's all absolutely everything you don't want to do when you're panicking because your car's not going the way you want it to go.
Exactly.
All the things your brain is like, that shouldn't work. It's like, no, brain, listen to me. Listen to me. If I do these things, this will work.
Yeah.
So I like that. I think it drives nice. It's the interior is really nice. For I think they really knocked it out of the park with the interior. That wood just feels really nice. The haptic feedback it's good. It's not great, but it's good enough. People are going to be like, look at this. Something, and you have actual physical button-esques for like climate control and so. But the most confusing thing was the lack of one pedal driving, though. I know. I can't wrap my head around their reasoning for that. They're like, well, people just don't like it. It's too aggressive. And we're like, well, you could still give them the option.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things.
To use it.
People were driving.
That's what settings are for.
Right.
That's what one of the things that people loved about the Leaf is like, have you tried this thing where you can one pedal driving? And then Nissan's like, yeah, the thing that everyone liked and then everyone copied. Yeah, we're getting rid of that for the.
We don't want to do that. We changed our mind. Bye-bye.
What?
Yeah, it's a strange decision. I'm sure there's a reason that comes down to marketing and blah 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 blah. But it was kind of a weird decision. I would agree.
Yeah, and then the fact that the center console moves backwards and forwards, I
like that.
But why?
Because I think
it looks cool. Because I was looking, I'm like, oh, there must be some extra space underneath.
But okay, so because
it just moves back, and I'm like,
wait. I like that. That's one of the things I like. So it has the center console, of course, it has your cup holders and I think there's a spot for your cell phone or whatever, but the padding for the armrest is also on there. So if you're, depending on where you have your seat adjusted and your height, if it's in the wrong spot, if you have to pull your seat too far forward, the armrest is behind you. If you're a tall guy, so you probably if it's too, that doesn't happen. Right. You know what I mean? You're all the way back.
I'll give it up for that, but
right. So if you're short and you move forward and you're it's weird. It's at a weird angle. I've had armrests where it's like 2/3 of the way back on my arm. It's like an elbow rest. I'm like, that's not what I want. I want it to be for my arm. Scooch that forward. Bzzz. Now it's perfectly aligned for me. And then when you get in, Robbie, you can move it all the way back for your giant size.
I was moving it back. I'm like, oh, there must be some. And I've driven the car before.
Yeah.
Somewhere. I don't remember. And I was too busy driving the car to really play with the center console. And then I was playing with it and I was moving it back. And I'm like, oh, there's got to be some extra space under here. It's hidden space. And you get to it. I'm like, no,
it's just to make it perfectly. So no matter where you position the front seat, you can make the armrest perfect for you. I like it. That was one of the things I liked.
Oh,
I like the drawer. I like the drawer.
I like the little drawer. No, I like the little drawer.
I like the little hidden. Perfect spot for a cookie.
Yeah, you can put your cookie in there. You can put your weed in it. Like all the things you want to hide.
There's these two little buttons in the center
Contraband.
console, and you push them, and instead of having like under the center, there's still a glove box, but right under the center, it like boop, it like comes out. There's a lid and it holds stuff in it, and then you boop and it goes back. But the little lid serves as a table too. So if you were sitting, you could put like your drink or whatever. If you're sitting, whatever, it's like a little table, it's a little automatic deployable table, and like drawer and hidey place for my cookies.
What else? Oh, you know what? The Pro Pilot 2, when you kind of trick it into, because it was raining, and they told us if the windshield wipers are medium or above medium.
Great, more than intermediate.
More than intermediate. Then it turns off. It doesn't give you the hands-free portion of it. But when it was working, it worked. I place it in between better than Blue Cruise, but under Super Cruise. It's not as like ping pong is Blue Cruise, but it's not quite as smooth as Super Cruise.
I think that's
good
probably
job. Good job on
fair.
Nissan on that.
Yeah. It's because Super Cruise is still like my favorite. I loved Super Cruise.
It's just smooth.
And the thing one of the things I really liked about their implementation of Pro Pilot 2. So this is their hands-free system. You know, when we talked to Kelly Funkhauser, you know, one of the things a few weeks back, one of the things that they talked about from their testing of driver assist systems, and the reason why they rated Blue Cruise above Super Cruise is because, you know, it doesn't go just from ACC to hands off, but, you know, it kind of goes in stages. So you have hands on lane centering and then hands free lane centering, and this does the same thing. So when you press the Pro Pilot button on the steering wheel spoke, at first it comes on in just ACC mode. And then depending on the conditions, it'll judge, you know, okay, can I do lane centering? Are there lane markings? Great. Then it goes to the lane centering mode with hands on. And then if it determines that it's on a highway and it uses maps, actually uses the same map database that GM uses for Super Cruise. It's from a company called Usher. And then, you know, if you're on a highway, it will allow you to go hands free. But what the thing that Nissan really did so much better than Ford is the HMI, the human machine interface. Mm-hmm. So if you have Pro Pilot 2.0, the heads up display is standard equipment on all the models that have Pro Pilot 2.0. And so you have the digital instrument cluster, and then the heads up display, and they actually completely changed the color scheme based on the mode for both the cluster and the HUD, so that when you're in that base lane centering or base ACC mode, it's a predominantly white color scheme. When it goes to hands-on, which is basically the same as Pro Pilot 1, then it goes green, both in the cluster and in the HUD. And then when it goes to hands-free mode, it goes to blue, which, you know, so it's there's no mode confusion. It's right in front of you there. You know from the color which mode you're in. And it's much easier to tell what the current state of the system is than it is with Blue Cruise. And I think they did that really well. And it transitions smoothly back and forth, you know, depending on the conditions. So, you know, as we were driving down the 101, you know, when there was little or no rain or light rain, and it was allowing you to go hands free, you know, go to blue, go hands free, just sit back, you know, keep an eye on the road. Still got the infrared driver monitor camera looking at you to alert you if you're not paying attention. And then as the rain got heavier, then it would go back to hands-on mode. It would go from blue to green. Very easy to tell what mode you're in. And then finally, you know, in certain conditions, it would be just ACC only. So I thought all of that worked really well, was really well implemented on this vehicle. Yeah,
I still kind of wish they put a little bit something on the steering wheel, but it's the fact that it's on the HUD and the HUD is standard.
Yeah,
that's the best. They told us that the light bar would do it, but then the light bar didn't come on. I don't know what's going on.
Well, yeah, so I
think it has to be nighttime.
Yeah, you don't really see it. There's an ambient light bar all the way across the dash that matches those colors. And in the daytime, you don't really see it. At night, apparently, you can see it.
Yeah, so, I was trying to I was doing this where I cut my hand over it and turn the lights on. I'm like, I'll forget it because I'm parked at that point. I'm like, well, this isn't a real test.
Yeah.
So, and then if you turn the lights on, all the lights dim. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, no, I think Nissan is good for them. They've been digging themselves out of a hole for the past year or so, and I think this is, for someone for a company that had the number one selling EV in the world for a while, to just sort of like not do anything. I think this is a good return to them, to the EV world.
Yeah, I mean, they were kind of first to market with a mainstream modern EV with the original Leaf in late 2010. And then they did nothing until late 20 for 11 years, or 12 years, when they finally launched the Ariya. And, unlike the Leaf, this one has a CCS charge port for DC fast charging instead of CHAdeMO. So now Nissan is going with, whatever is the local standard. So in Japan, if you buy an Ariya, you get CHAdeMO. Here you get CCS type 1, which is what we use here. And then in Europe, you get CCS type 2, which is a slightly different version for their 3-phase power. The charging is not as fast as, say, EGMP, because it's the 400-volt system. So it's only 130 kilowatt. And they quote for quick charge from 10 to 80%. It'll take 40 minutes, which is more than twice as long as what is theoretically possible with the Hyundais and Kias.
That's the big drawback.
Yeah.
I mean, but you know what? I like the interior. This is really beautiful, the versatility of it. And I really liked how the all-wheel drive drove. I felt like it was much more fun to drive than the front-wheel drive version.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
I wish they'd launched this first. Because I feel like if you drove the front-wheel drive, you kind of went like, oh, okay.
All right, this is a good return for them. And then you drive this, you're like, oh, this is much better.
Like, this one's better. This one I like.
Someone deserves a raise.
Someone deserves a raise. For the front-wheel drive, just don't fire him. For the all-wheel drive, give him a raise.
Everyone gets their regular bonus, but the all-wheel drive,
they get a little extra.
They get a little extra and a party, a pizza party.
Pizza party.
Maybe at a bowling alley.
Pizza and cookies. Yeah, pie. There should be pie.
Chuck E. Cheese. At a Chuck E. Cheese. But they bring in other pizza.
And unlike like the Kia, because this is currently only built in Japan, no clean vehicle credits for this unless you do a lease. And then I have talked to Nissan a couple of times about this now, and they are looking at their future production plans, as to where they're going to build stuff. And I think that if this thing does reasonably well, I think that there's a pretty strong likelihood that they will add production of this vehicle in Tennessee, not before 2025, probably in 25 when they'll start building it here. But they are going to start building more EVs in North America. And I would guess that this will probably be one of the first, because this is in a market segment that, is pretty popular. This thing is, same size, roughly the same size as, an Ioniq 5, Mach-E, and a bunch of other vehicles. So I think that, there's a good potential for this thing to be built here and then get clean vehicle credits. Although they will have to resource the battery, because right now the batteries for these things come from CATL in China. And so they won't be able to get any credits for that. So they'll have to get batteries from a different supplier.
Nissan just doesn't have the capital that everyone else has to like Hyundai's like, oh, you know what? We're just going to move up building cars in the US now.
Yeah.
Because we're doing pretty well. I think Nissan's like still like, okay, we gotta sell cars to build cars. We gotta sell more. So, but this is a really good car. If you're looking for an EV, give it a look.
Yeah, I agree.
And the stitching on the leather seats was also really nice. It just looked good and felt good.
It does have a really good looking interior. I think especially for Nissan.
Oh, nice.
I think it's a little bit
the little Japanese inspired like.
Oh, I don't know. They had a name for that.
They did have a name. And at one point they called it like Zen. And I'm like, I'm not putting Zen in an article about a Japanese car because I'm a white guy writing about Zen. Why don't I put Samurai in there too?
What did they call it? Because it was such a neat little, they had a name for it and I can't remember. It sounded cool. And none of us can remember it, but it sounded cool and it also looks cool. So there you go. Whatever it's called,
It all lights up.
still sounds and looks cool. Yeah.
All righty. Let's see. Where's the list here? Oh, okay. So when I did get to San Francisco on Tuesday, my first stop was to meet up with a couple of people from Waymo to go for a ride in one of their Jaguar I-Paces, which I haven't done in San Francisco previously. So, there's about 100 and some of these driving around San Francisco, has been for quite a while now. This was, there were three of us in the vehicle. Nobody was sitting behind the steering wheel. We just, we got in, they said, okay, where do you want to go? And I said, well, let's start with the Fillmore. And so we headed off towards the Fillmore. And while we were on our way there, I said, let's make a stop at City Hall. So put that in the app and it rerouted, went to City Hall, and then went on to the Fillmore. It was all, this was like, 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning. So, fair amount of traffic in San Francisco, a little bit of light rain. It just all worked really well. I did notice in a couple of spots that it did seem to decide, instead of doing a left turn here, I'm going to make 3 right turns, which was fine.
Because it's safer to do the right. To be honest,
it's a San Francisco thing.
Yeah.
Like some places you just can't turn left, so you just learn how to do 3 rights anyway.
Yeah. Well, and it's safer. In a city where there's a lot of traffic, a lot of times it can actually be faster.
Right.
Rather than waiting at an intersection, through 3 or 4 light cycles to make a left turn. It all worked really well. There were no issues with it. I know one thing that, was different from the way Cruise is doing it. On the Cruise robotaxis, on their Bolts, they're not on the screen in the back seat for the passengers. They show you where you are on the map, but it's not showing you any detail about what the sensors are seeing, which is something that Waymo has been doing from the beginning. It shows you the other cars around you, and other companies do this too. Tesla does it with their autopilot and FSD, and even the Niro I was driving showed you the other cars that the cameras were seeing. So, I like that. One interesting detail during the ride, for, I don't know, since about 2015 or 16, Waymo has had microphones on the outside of their car to listen for emergency vehicles. So when they hear sirens, then the sensors look to see where it's coming from, and then it'll pull over if necessary. And it actually did that. We were near City Hall, and a fire truck was going by, sirens blaring, and it pulled over and waited until the fire truck passed, and then continued on its way. So, that was a good thing. Overall, it was just a pretty uneventful ride. Right now, Waymo doesn't yet have a permit for carrying paying passengers in California. They're hoping to get that soon. They do have permits for carrying non-paying passengers as part of their early rider program. And they also carry employees. So, it's they're making good progress. This is something that is slowly becoming a real thing.
That's really cool. That's good. I'm glad to hear that it was a positive experience.
Yeah. All right. Last item before we hit a couple of listener questions. The VW ID2 All concept. Why they're calling it that, I really don't know.
All?
It just looks like it's ready to go. It's just ready to go. I don't know why they're saying concept. Like, what is concepty about it? They have like reflectors on it.
What is concepty?
Like
I would like your conceptiness defined, please.
If you look in the interior, it has like all the little buttons it's supposed to have. What is concepty about this vehicle?
Well, because the production version is not coming till 2025.
I guess.
So it's going to change between now and then.
Yeah. Probably not much.
I don't think they're going to change much of anything.
A little tiny bit, just a little bit.
We'll probably have to put like a different, like reflectors
for
different.
Skosh.
A skosh.
A skosh of change.
It's going to come out as a pickup.
Yeah. That's going to be a full-size 3-row SUV.
We made a few changes, guys. Whoa.
This is actually going to be the Scout when it arrives. So they claim that it has as much interior room as a VW Golf, which is nice. That's more than adequate for most people.
Mm-hmm.
And the really important thing about this is the price is supposed to be less than 25,000 euros. So about $25,000. Yeah.
And okay,
That's
so it
cheap.
says 280 miles of range with a WLTP cycle, which means about 230, I guess, with EPA. 230 for 20. That's
Yeah. I mean,
just bring
that's,
it over here so people can buy it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Give us one, please.
Give us the
Bring it to us. Try
ID
it.
to all.
ID
I would-
to all. What is it again? I already forgot the name.
ID
of it.
to all.
ID to all.
Yeah.
To
Just
all?
call it the ID2.
All.
To
To
all.
all.
What does that mean?
For
Are we saying it
everyone.
right? Is it
It's
like
for
the weird
everyone.
things like where force is like force, but it's force? What else could twal?
Twal.
ID tall?
ID to
No, twal.
twal.
No, is it a name or are they saying to all?
To all. It's to all. It's for everyone.
To all.
All
for everyone?
people.
Oh,
Could
All
be.
people.
Everybody can afford one.
All right. Everybody can
Yeah.
afford one. Okay,
Okay.
fine.
It's
We'll
for
go with that.
all.
So this has a new iteration of the MEB platform. It will be the first with front wheel drive. So right now, if you get a 2-wheel drive ID3 or ID4 or Skoda or any of the other variants that they sell in Europe, the 2-wheel drive versions are all rear motor, rear wheel drive. This one will have it in the front, have the motor in the front, and presumably they will stack all the electronics and everything in there in the front, which will provide probably for a little bit more rear seat room, without having the motor back there. 166 kilowatt, 224 roughly horsepower electric motor, which you're talking almost GTI power levels there.
Yeah.
And like you said, 230, 240 miles of range for 20, under 25 grand. Can't complain about that.
Yeah, that's a deal.
Yeah.
Are they just gonna like tease us? Are they waiting for people to say yes? I have the story about how the ID3 didn't show up here, right? I've said it on here where they gave Volkswagen Germany told Volkswagen America they could have the ID3. All they had to do was sell 20,000 units, and Volkswagen America's like, no. We want to make a big splash with the ID4 because that crossover segment, it's a big segment. So they didn't want to sort of just like, oh, here's the thing, and then here's our big crossover. They really wanted to make the crossover sort of the centerpiece, and so now that's why we don't have an ID3. But I mean, the ID2 all, I mean, other than like if they made it a cabrio,
Robbie loses his mind.
That could be fun,
right?
It'd be fun.
Yeah.
Throw an extra $5,000 on there, cut the top off. But this is the perfect car for just cruising around town, taking care of everything. It's got lots of room. It has because there's nothing.
You could fit a couple of dogs in the back seat.
You could put your dogs in the back. There's like a big hole, like a big cubby area in the back. Apparently, you can put a carry-on in there sideways.
That's
on
cool.
its side, and then some milk crates full of some sort of.
I know it's like what's with the milk crates? We're bringing. Is it?
Well, I mean, if you have a band, you're probably gonna have milk crates, right?
Yeah, but
That's
these
true.
are like full of water. Are they anticipating?
You know what they're
an
full
apocalypse?
of? I bet it's German. They're full of apple juice.
Oh, you've got it. You're right.
Germans love apple juice. No, it's got the room people need. You could just cruise it around. You can put your dogs in it. I don't know. They're not going to say they're going to bring it here.
Do you think they will?
I don't know.
Probably not. Unfortunately,
probably
we
not.
probably won't get it.
Volkswagen's they need to see somebody else do this, is essentially what Volkswagen. And Mini's doing it with the SE, but I mean the numbers, and they just can't make enough
But
of
the
those
SE is a lot
SEs.
more expensive than this, though.
Yeah, it's more expensive. It has less range.
Yeah.
It's a hoot to drive, but it doesn't
what,
have
though?
the big numbers that Volkswagen is going to look at and say, okay, there's a market for this.
I'll bet you, with this range, this 450 kilometer range, 230, 40 mile range, this is probably using at this price point, it's probably using a lithium iron phosphate battery rather than a nickel rich battery, which that would help them get the price down. Maybe they could. Maybe they would bring this thing over.
Maybe. If they could if they could get fleet. Well, see, the problem is you can't get local government fleets to buy it because it's not American.
Right.
But if they could get other fleets to buy it, like little the housekeepers. They all have like.
I wonder if the Made in America rules for the government fleets allow. I can't remember if it has to be in the U.S. or if it's anywhere in North America.
I don't know.
Because if they built this thing in Mexico, where they've been building Jettas and Golfs, or the wagons for a long time.
Wagons.
That could keep the cost down and help them hit that price point. But
it could.
We'll see.
I mean, the concept the concept they showed at the Munich show. Was that Munich? I don't know, somewhere in Germany. It was a little bit more. It was sort of outlandish and it was really cool. But I like the guy who designed it got fired.
Oh gosh.
The Germans are like
a little bit too cool.
Yeah, it was a little too cool. I think this is more in line with what people would actually buy. The other one was a bit more niche. I mean, I'd be like, oh yeah, I'll totally buy this, but they're never going to bring it. This, on the other hand, I mean, I can see a bunch of people buying it. I get people asking me all the time. I just want a hatchback that I can drive around. And I'm like, well, there's the Golf and there's the Golf.
Yeah.
Oh, have you heard of the Golf?
There's also a Golf.
Well, there's also the Mazda 3.
And the Mazda 3.
Yeah. And a Toyota Corolla. You can get a Toyota Corolla hatchback.
Oh yeah, the Toyota Corolla.
But I would take this thing over any of those.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I just plug it in, drive it around, put the dogs in the back. I can do band things in it. I can go to the store. Man, I'm just sad now. I'm gonna stop looking at it because it's just, every time I look at it, I just like, man, they're not gonna bring this to you.
He just gets cranky.
I do. I just get cranky. I get cranky like when they took the wagon away. I was like, oh. Every time. I mean, even Volvo, like we tried. We brought you wagons and no one bought them.
I would. If it wasn't for Dieselgate, I would probably still be driving a VW wagon.
Yeah,
we would probably still have one in the garage. But we had to sell it back.
So. Wah wah.
Womp womp. In.
All right, let's answer a couple of questions. All right. First up from AMP300, and this actually came from the Twit Discord, not from our own Discord, but from the Twit Discord.
Ooh. Oh, that's funny.
And it says we're in the market to buy a new family hauler by the end of the year, which is my non-committal way of saying probably a minivan.
Minivans are awesome. All right.
We were initially looking into a Pacifica hybrid. Plug-in hybrid, as most of our daily driving would be less than the 32-mile electric range. We have solar panels at home and an EV charger available at work. And I've seen reviews indicating the Pacifica basically turns into a regular 30-mile per gallon hybrid anytime the temperature drops below freezing, because there is no EV only switch, and it is designed to use heat from the ICE to keep the battery at normal operating temperatures. That, combined with the latest recall in January and Chrysler's less than stellar reputation for build quality and long-term reliability, are making me wonder if I should cross it off the list in favor of the non-PHEV Toyota hybrid. That would be the Sienna. Does anyone here have a Pacifica hybrid? Would you buy it again, given the recalls and limitations? So let me answer a couple of things first. I'm not sure that first of all, you're right. There is no EV only switch. Because I think, and if you consider the fact that Chrysler has never really referred to this as a plug-in hybrid, they always refer to it as just the Pacifica hybrid. Because I think what they're trying to do when they launched this thing was trying to make it as simple as possible for people. Not trying to. This is a vehicle that was not targeted at the enthusiasts like some of the people that would drive like a Prius Prime or something like that. They just wanted to make it as simple and as efficient as for drivers as possible. So you come home at night, you plug it in, unplug it in the morning, you go about your way and don't even think about what mode it's in. Just let it find its most efficient place. I have not had one in cold temperatures, so I don't know if it goes into if it'll go into electric mode. My guess is if you use the preconditioning, which it does have for the climate control. So, if you tell it, I need to leave at 7 a.m. and I want the temperature at, 68 degrees or 70 degrees, and the cabin's already warmed up, then it probably will go in electric mode. If you need to use the heat, then it's going to turn on the engine, at least for a while, until it generates enough heat to heat the cabin, and then it'll switch over to electric mode. I don't think it, the battery is going to work fine, at sub-freezing temperatures. It doesn't need to be kept warm. Obviously, it'll work better. You'll have more range if it is warm, but it'll still work. So I think it's more about heating the cabin than heating the temperature or heating the battery. They have had some recalls on these things, and Chrysler's had some quality issues, but it's still a great vehicle.
I mean, I haven't had one if I've had one in the winter, and I'm trying to remember, I don't think I've had one recently. Even though I've driven it quite a bit, I don't remember being an issue where it would not pop into EV mode, but I'm thinking it's going to be, it's not, it just has to warm up a little. It's not like you're going to have to drive like 150 miles in a typical vehicle, even when they do have an EV button.
Yeah, it's going to be 5 or 10 minutes.
Right.
Just enough to warm up the engine.
It's a short amount of time, and it will just kick over. If you try to press the EV button, it was like, nope, sorry, can't do it right now. Too cold. Or it says, it'll say like cabin cooling and heating or whatever. It won't let you do it, but it doesn't take long. So I'd imagine that even if it was excessively cold, if you can't use it right away, even during that short drive route, because it sounds like you don't do a lot of driving, then you're still going to get a good amount of hybrid use out of it, even if there is going to be more gas use during the cold winter months.
And then, the Toyota Sienna, the current gen Sienna, is hybrid only. There's no just regular gas version of the Sienna. One big advantage, if you're concerned about cold weather driving, I'm presuming you live somewhere where it's, where it gets snow and stuff, and you might actually want all-wheel drive, and you cannot get the Pacifica plug-in hybrid with all-wheel drive. It's front-wheel drive only.
Because it's only the other Pacifica has all-wheel drive.
Yeah. So, but you can get the Sienna with either front or all-wheel drive. So that might be a better option for you. Now, while I greatly applaud, your recognition that a minivan is the best family hauler form factor, there are some other options for plug-in hybrids in the crossover space. The Kia Sorento is available as a plug-in hybrid. The Hyundai Santa Fe, and the Sorento is a 2.5 row. It's got a third row. It's a little on the small side. But the Santa Fe is also available as a plug-in hybrid. So depending on how much size you need, there are some options there for plug-in hybrids in the crossover segment.
Yeah. But get the minivan instead.
Yeah, definitely.
Just get a minivan. It's awesome.
Just do it.
Much
Just
room.
Get the minivan.
So much room for activities.
Yeah. So if you're concerned about reliability and quality with the Chrysler, just get the Sienna hybrid.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, Sam Greenwood. What are some good automotive news sites?
All the ones I write for.
Just straight up automotive news, like newsy news, like that's a tough question.
Yeah.
You want which executive has just left or been named to the board of blah blah blah, or do you want a review of the vehicle?
Yeah, so hardcore like in the weeds, like business stuff. The site is actually called Automotive News.
Yeah, that's truly it. That's the one that gives
autonews.com.
I think of Automotive News is kind of the Wall Street Journal of the car world. It's just
that's a good way to describe it. Yeah.
Yeah. It does have a subscription, so you'll get like one or two articles, and then after that you got to give them a little something if you want to get all. Yeah. But
on the other hand, that does help them pay for a lot of good journalism. They pay their reporters well, and they have a lot of people on their staff. And they've been hiring people. So, if you want good news, you gotta pay. They pay really well for freelancers. I haven't written anything for them, but they told me what they paid, and it was good.
Oh, that's good.
So Automotive News. If you're looking for like enthusiast site, there's The Drive. Of course, there's also Car and Driver, Road and Track, Motor Trend. Those three are sort of the big three for like 1,000 years. I like
Motor One. I think Motor One gives a good combination of like reviews and news and fun stuff. They have a good balance.
Yeah, Motor One's really good.
I like that.
I've written for Motor One too, so Who have I not written for?
Samesies, which is not why I was pimping it out, but I do like it.
Yeah, the Team Over Motor One, they're nice people. They do some good stuff. For them, there's a lot of actually really good sites out there.
If you like some snark in there, there's always the Autopian and Jalopnik.
Yeah, Autopian and Jalopnik. I know Autopian's a little bit more enthusiast in the weeds. Like there was a whole article about why the carbureted Beetle and the fuel injected Beetle had different horsepower ratings.
Oh, geez.
And it has to do with how the ratings were measured. And by the time the fuel injected Beetle came out, they had changed the way they. Anyway, I loved it, but it's like that's like super nerd, car nerd, and sort of first person stuff is the Autopian, and Jalopnik is sort of like that, but they're getting a little bit more less bratty kid. And that's because of the
less bratty kid. I love
the new ownership.
Less bratty kid.
Yeah,
okay.
And then the new EIC Bob over there. Bob's great. I think I've written for them too. Yeah.
There you go.
So all right.
There's some good.
Strangely enough, nobody mentioned my alma mater, Autoblog.
Autoblog's good too.
I didn't even think about
like Autoblog. Autoblog has a ton of news.
Yeah.
Autoblog's really good. Yeah,
I've written for them
too. Yeah, they do a ton of news. So like just things that are happening during the day, check out the old Autoblog.
All right. Jeff D asks, hey guys, thought of a question. Sam and Nicole can probably answer this best since Robbie lives in the warm climates.
So sit back and relax, Robbie. You can
I'm going to have a pina colada
by my something. Yeah.
RAV4 Prime, how well does the heat pump system work in the frigid cold of like 20s and below in the dead of winter? Does it warm up fast? Will it work in full EV mode, or does the engine kick on when it's that cold anyway? We have a deposit down on a Prime for my wife, and I'm concerned her first complaint will be that it doesn't get warm enough in real cold weather. Do you have any experience? Well, I have not driven a RAV4 Prime in winter weather, so I don't know. Have you had one?
No, you know what? I have not driven one, I've driven it when it's cool, but not like this frigid, like, oh gosh, things are not going to work because it's too cold weather. But I think it's sort of the same, kind of like we were talking about with the Pacifica hybrid a second ago. The heat pump is going to warm something up. It's going to make it a little more quickly that you're going to be able to be drive it like an EV, and it's going to be fine, but you're still going to notice, I guess, performance issues when it's cold. Initially, it takes a few seconds for electric anythings to kind of find their footing when the weather is cold. Will they still work? Yes. Are you going to notice that it's not as great as when it was a nice balmy 70 degrees? Yep. You are going to notice the difference, but I don't think it's a difference that's so big that you think, oh God, I can't even drive this because it's wintertime and it's horrible. I don't think that happens.
Yeah. And I think, 20s and below, if you're getting down towards zero, a heat pump is going to have limited capability there in terms of generating or, getting the heat. And so most likely, if you've got the heat turned on in those conditions, it's like I said, it's going to be like the Pacifica. It's probably going to run the engine for a few minutes until the engine warms up, generates, heats up the coolant, and then then it can shut off, and the heat pump can take that and get the heat from that into your cabin. So it will be more efficient. It's probably not good. Let's put it this way. It's not going to warm up any slower than a hybrid RAV4 or any other comparable vehicle.
Exactly. It's not like you're going to get something else that does so much better. Like, well, I went with this one. If I'd gone with that other guy, nope. You're going to sort of notice that same performance issue no matter which one you go with.
All right. Last one from Todd 111. I have a question for the podcast. I have a base 2023 Subaru Forester, which has physical knobs for the HVAC and stereo.
Yeah.
Being able to operate the stereo and HVAC without taking my eyes off the road was one of the reasons we chose this SUV over some of the others in its class. I've heard the topic of knobs and buttons versus haptic and screens discussed, but I can't get a definitive answer. Well, there is a definitive answer. Knobs and buttons are better. Simple as that. Many journalists claim that getting rid of buttons is a cost-saving measure, but I've heard others claim that manufacturers do it more for aesthetic reasons. Of course, we've also heard some manufacturers add back buttons and buttons, knobs and buttons, after complaints from consumers and journalists. I'm wondering, do manufacturers really save that much money by eliminating physical controls? And if so, how much? Or is it more of a push by designers who think it looks cool aesthetically? I'd enjoy hearing everyone's takes on this topic. Thanks for the weekly entertainment. So, yes, it does save a significant amount of money. The cost of engineering all those individual knobs and switches and buttons, as well as, you've got to have, wiring going to every one of those controls. That complicates the assembly process. There's more parts that have to be built and put together. Engineering and validating all that stuff, making sure that it's going to continue, those things are going to continue to work properly for 150,000 miles of use. It's that does add cost, and that is probably, I would say, I think when Tesla started doing that, when they launched the Model S, I think that was actually their primary reason for doing it, to get that cost out of there. More recently, certainly other manufacturers appreciate the cost savings, but they've also heard from consumers that mistakenly like that kind of thing. And there's obviously some aesthetic reasons for wanting to do that, but cost is really I think the biggest driver.
Yeah, it's because, and you don't have to regionalize, because you can just regionalize software where you don't have to we got to make, in this country we probably need to change the words on this, or we got to make this, and this, it's just there's a lot of money involved, and if you can reduce the money, but the fact that people are complaining, like I complain, and hopefully Todd 111 or 111 or 11-1, whatever, Todd is also, anytime I get in a car,
Todd 111.
111. There's
maybe
some
he's
sort
111.
of physical controls.
1. Okay, sorry, I got on a tangent. Okay.
Anyway, physical controls are better because like you said, you can because you have muscle memory of where that control is all the time. You always know, oh, this is the HVAC, this is the volume control, everything's there. Whereas if you do that with, you can get the muscle control as they start sort of making sure the HVAC is always up, like the climate controls, but you're still bouncing around. You don't have anything to grip, so now you're setting your thumb or something against something on the dash in order to push a fake button to push a piece of glass in order to change the temperature. Whereas if you could just turn something, you're like, I can grab it and turn it. My hand doesn't bounce around as I hit a bump or anything. Yeah.
And if you're driving something like a VW ID4, where it's got that little ledge at the bottom of the screen that's got the touch controls for the volume and temperature on there. When you're going to hit something on the screen, you inevitably end up bracing using your thumb or one of your fingers to brace your hand on that as you're bouncing around, and then hitting some other control instead of the one you actually meant to hit on the screen.
Yeah.
The haptic stuff, like what Nissan's got in the Ariya, works reasonably well. Especially the ones that are on the console, because you're not reaching out to hit those. You still have to look down at them to find them because you can't do it by feel.
Yeah.
But at least you do get some feedback that it's registered that you've pressed that control. So that helps, but I'd still rather have physical controls.
I'd rather have physical controls. If I could, I just when you have to. I've got them on the steering wheel and I'm forever like, which button am I hitting? Wait, this is the volume. No, wait, that's the track on the audio. Wait, crud. If I could just reach over and flip a volume button and,
Yeah. And especially, if they're trying to use, a few limited physical controls for multiple uses, like Tesla does and like Rivian does. I've got an R1S in the driveway right now, and, they've got the roller and rocker controls on each spoke of the steering wheel there's no labels on them. And
I am not a fan of the multiple things doing different things depending on what mode you're in, because I forever think that's what I want to reach to
Am I
turn
in the right
off.
mode? No.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, I'm turning the volume up. Nope, I just turn the heat up to lava temperature. Oh wait, it's confusing. It's not intuitive at all. Just give me a button that does a thing or a knob that does a thing. That's what I want. That's what I want.
Yeah. Totally agree. All right.
Team Todd 11, 111.
111 team. How do you say? I need to know. I don't know. 111, 111, 111, 110. I don't know. I don't know what this name is. This is too confusing. Todd, pick a less confusing name. Don't be a Volkswagen. Okay.
Team Todd. Just say Team Todd.
Team Todd.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye.